welcome to Rise Up, where we learn about different fields for teens through experts in those fields. Today, we have a very highly esteemed guest from the RP-Sanjiv Goenka Group, which is India's youngest business group born in 1820. The group has interests across diverse business sectors: power and natural resources, carbon black, IT and education, retail, media and entertainment, and infrastructure, with assets of over $2 billion USD and an employee strength of close to 50,000. The group is well set to launch itself into the next league. Over the next 5 years, the group is expected to invest close to 5 billion USD across various business projects. So please welcome Ms. Mittal, who is the Vice President of Media/Digital. She has been contributing to the industry by being a part of various marketing fraternities as an advisory board member and a jury for various awards. She has also received various marketing and digital awards for her work, like the Marketing Influencer of the Year and Media Superwoman of the Year. So first of all, Ms. Mittal, thank you for being here, and thank you for this great opportunity to interview you and to know more about your field.
Thank you, Moulik. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our interaction today.
Thank you, thank you. So let's start with the industry, right? I'd like to start with the industry. How many different industries would you say you have worked in or been a part of, and how have you seen them change throughout?
Okay, so I started working way back in 1998, so it's almost like it's more than 22
Wow,
years now.
wow,
And
congrats.
thank you. And I've been a part of, I started my life in advertising, and then I moved over to consulting for a few years, and then I went to the advertiser side. But I have been within the media space all through these years. So I've had the unique opportunity to see this media space not only from three different perspectives. I haven't been on the media seller side yet, or the media houses, but from the other side, I've been like on the advertising agency, I've been with media agencies, I've been with media auditing teams, and I
Wow.
have been handling media for the last 10 years for GSK, Reckitt, and now RPSG. So I have had the opportunity to work across various different industries, because when you're in advertising, you kind of end up interacting with it. So
Mhm.
I launched Hyundai in India. That was as an advertising intern.
Wow.
So yeah, way back then. And then so automobiles, consumer durables, launched an ISP in India when it was like just in a very, very nascent stage. Uh, Again, last 10 years have been FMCG, so that's where now my core strength lies. But being across various industry groups, now we are handling retail, we are handling entertainment, music. So it's like a
Mhm.
host of various fields. So been there across a lot of them.
Wow. Wow. And what about more specifically on your job, right? As vice president of media/digital, what exactly do you do? As many teams, I'm sure, don't know.
Right. So, what my role here in this organization, or in the last couple of organizations I've been, is to make sure that whatever money which we are putting, all the advertising dollars which are going in, are spent well. So, like India is a very, very complex market, much more
Yeah.
complex than maybe the US, where they will have like English, and you'll have Spanish as the two major languages, a bit of
Hmm.
Chinese, maybe a bit of Indian Hindi language or something. But in India, what we feel is that the entire country is like as many
Yeah.
different, I mean, countries and cells. Each of the state has their own language, their own unique TV channels. I think at the last count, there were more than 800 TV channels.
Wow.
There are more than 1,000 print, like press. You've got magazines, you've got radio stations. So my job is to make sense of all of this and say that what works for our brands, in which media, at what price, and how much should we be actually putting in. So it's really optimizing our media spends to go ahead with uh, the best what is for each brand, and buying it at the right price for us. Again, the other complexity which has now come in the last 10, 12 odd years is this whole digital piece. So you have uh, Google, Facebook, TikTok is there now, it's banned. So there is a lot of things which keep happening in the digital space as well. So again, how much to go into digital, because digital is the new kid on the block. Everybody wants to do digital, but what exactly will work for me, my brands, what exactly will work for my target audience, is something which I need to take care of. So my role kind of takes forward from what I was doing in my first few years at advertising. So I was actually doing it at the agency, and now my job is more to see that whatever the agency is coming back to us, the brief which goes to them and what comes back to us is in line with what the brand objectives are.
Awesome, awesome. So just to summarize a bit up here, you look out mostly, at least on this side, you look mostly at what your prize is going to be for, let's say, a specific ad, and how much you would have to pay for that. What would be a good price for that? Is that what you do, or do you also maybe do interviews, all of that?
No, so it's also not only what price, but what exactly to buy. So first you have to decide whether you want to put in money on Insta or Facebook, you want to put money on Star Plus or Star Sports. So, it's like those kind of channel choices as well. Whether you want to put money on TV, or you want to put it on print, or you want to put it on radio, or you want to put it on all of them, or outdoor, whatever. So it's starting from the media choices to the specific media vehicles within that, to the price which is brought, and then finally, how has the plan delivered? Has it delivered our plans? If the sales needle hasn't moved, then what went wrong? Is there something we can do better? Those kind of things. And then, of course, managing the relationships with all the media entities as well, because a large part of uh, this whole thing works on networking. So, you need to know the right people and all of that. So that's what keeps me busy.
Wow, wow. And what about, let's look out a bit. What about your company? What exactly does your company do? Is it more like Berkshire Hathaway, or is it something totally different?
Oh, so this is like one of the largest groups or conglomerates in India, and it has various interests. You've already spoken
Yeah,
about them.
yeah.
So what I typically take care of is the interest within the consumer space. So which is things like we have we have FMCG, we have media and entertainment, so, and we have retail. So in each of them there are expansion plans as well. So that's where the group is kind of moving towards. So we have electricity and carbon black, which are the more industrial sectors.
Right.
So where my involvement is slightly lesser, but the group's growth ambitions are in the newer consumer-facing domains.
Right. That's awesome. And now that we kind of know what you do, what I'd like to do is I'd like to shift perspective a little bit. I want to go back to the very beginning. I'd like to ask, what attracted you to this industry, right? And the reason I ask this is to see what kind of hobbies / likings one has which attract them into this industry.
Okay. So, Maulik, it was quite accidental that I got into this. I'll be very, very honest. And I think, you know, it's that's what sometimes you look back and you realize how everything was kind of falling in place and you didn't know. So I remember when we had a summer internship, I was always attracted towards the advertising side. So I thought it was fun. It was interesting, and the business of creating brands was different at a advertising agency versus going to a to a an organization which is making the brands. So I wanted to start from there, and I remember going for my summer internship and meeting these two gentlemen, and I said I want to get into account planning, which is more into the brand side of things, and they said that you've done physics in your graduation, and do you like numbers? I said, yeah, I like numbers. I like playing around with numbers and making sense of those. So they said, why don't you try media planning? And I'm like, what's media planning? Because way back in 96, nobody really knew what media planning was. It had just come into India, like the Gulf War had happened in the early 90s. So cable TV had just about come in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was the local new TV station, Doordarshan, which was doing well. So I was like, what is it? What is it about? And I had
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no clue. And they said, why don't you try it out? And I joined the agency for my summers. Uh, there were like three of us in the media team: my boss, my guide, and and me. So I was so it was just kind of setting up. But
Mm-hmm.
what I started looking at is, it's such it. What gave me the gratification that time was that there was so much of interest in how people are consuming various kinds of media. What are they watching? When are they watching it? Why are
Mm-hmm.
they watching? And it was really a very, very nascent industry at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, just thought that maybe this is something I can explore. And I remember my first agencies, like when I joined my first job, my boss used to sit in Bombay. I was in Delhi. I had absolutely no hand holding, so I was just thrown into the uh, through the grind. And I remember somebody in the office saying, like, what the IT guy saying that, but why does Bhavna need a computer? She's in media. She doesn't need a computer. And I'm like, okay, I need one because I have to run softwares. And it was like a very, and I was like this scrawny 22-year-old, so nobody kind of took you seriously at that time. You're and you are like starry-eyed when you come into your first job, right?
Right.
But somewhere when I launched Hyundai, and it was uh, that whole excitement of launching a brand and taking it to people kind of kept me going. And then over the last 22 years, I would have handled maybe 50, 80 odd brands, I don't remember. So it's
Wow.
like a long number.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's kind of what
Wow.
got me in and kept me going.
Wow. Um, now, as you have seen, as you just stated, you were in this game and really early on, so you've really seen it grow, right? You've seen the
Right.
different kind of people in it. So as a business person now, who would look like an ideal person for the job, right? And this would basically serve as a model of what kind of profile students should start building early on.
Uh, okay. So, uh, I think there are a few basic things which you require when you're doing any job.
Mm-hmm.
So, you need to be sincere, you need to be passionate about it, and you need to have a, an innate sense of a desire to learn more. So I feel that even till today, I am learning. I'm learning from my juniors, I'm learning from the other people, so that's I mean, any job, I think, as people
Mm-hmm.
who are going to be stepping into the job scene in a few years, I think that's something which has to be there. So whatever you do it with all your heart and all your mind. So that's one. But
Mm-hmm.
coming to the specifics of my kind of a profile, early on you have to have a very strong interest in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You, in fact, the first few years, you're just making pivot tables and managing data, going through like almost sometimes even a million rows in
Wow.
Excel. So
Wow.
you have to get to understanding all of that and then seeing what makes sense. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking at so much of data, you can get lost in it. So one is the ability to read data, the ability to make numbers talk back to you. Then
Mm-hmm.
as you start growing into the fold, you need to manage your teams, which again is a more kind of a regular thing. I mean, any job you would start becoming a supervisor at a point in time. And then is the ability to get to network, because
Mhm.
again, in the media industry you have so many TV channels, so much of media. So ability to network, and not only with your media fraternity, like the media vendor space, but also with people within your fraternity, because you end up learning a lot of things from them as well. So if it was my kind of a profile at any other advertiser level, or if it is people at senior levels across various agencies, so you kind of need to keep talking to them, because you need to understand what's going on in the market, what is
Mhm.
dynamic. And lastly, I think you have to have that enthusiasm to see your brands grow. You have to
Right.
be,
Right.
you have to have childlike curiosity to whenever you're handling any project, because that will make you ask the right questions and see what is best for your brand. Because all categories, all brands behave differently, the consumers, how they
Mhm.
interact with it, behave differently. There would be some brands where the person who's buying it is not the person who's going to consuming it. So I'll give you a
Mhm.
very small example. When we were looking at cars, and when I had two stints of handling Hyundai in my career early on, so we realized that the car may be chosen by the man of the household, right? At that time, lesser women were buying cars. Hopefully, now it's a
Mhm.
better number. But the color that is chosen by the kids. So the parents have nothing to say in the color. So, what kind of colors do you put in your advertising has a very, very strong role to play in what kind of, I mean, how much
Wow.
your car sells. Now,
Wow.
you, there, I mean, if you think of it, there is absolutely no correlation. But
Mhm.
coming back, if you put your mind and then you realize that, oh, it's so intuitive. So those are the cues you have to pick up. You have to meet people, your friends, your families, because they are all consumers. You are a consumer yourself.
Right.
So how do you kind of manage to get insights, and again, work on those?
Mhm. So just to summarize a little bit, you'd say
Yeah.
that one of the most important things is one, being passionate about what you do with, a curiosity for learning, an ever-growing curiosity for learning, hardworking, right? Working as much as possible and working well. Apart from that, critical thinking, um, you know, picking up on social cues, you know, being aware, self-aware, not only self-aware, but aware of your surroundings, of the people around you as well.
Right. I think, yeah, that kind of summarizes it.
Awesome, awesome. But now I'd like to go on to a little more on this, right? In terms of the advice you would give. So, what exactly, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self with your current knowledge, right? And the reason I ask this is that a multitude of teens around the globe may come across or face the same problems that you may have had, right? So this would basically serve as a word of caution or a way to deal with that problem. So what would it be?
Uh, so I think now looking back, my only word of advice to my younger self will be, don't be so impatient, it will all fall in place.
Mm-hmm.
When you're younger, you want a lot of things to be happening and you don't realize that how things are. But as you grow ahead, you realize that everything is happening for a reason, and somewhere it all falls
Right.
in place. So again, it's slightly philosophical, but honestly, that's what I think. Like, I mean, as young graduates who just got into the job market, you feel so insecure, you feel
Mm-hmm.
impatient, you feel that, oh, this person is earning a few $1,000 more than me, and all those kind of things kind of keep you very, very they keep you awake at night. But
Mm-hmm.
now, as you realize that going ahead in life, things just fall in place. Everything has a way of working out for itself. And maybe when you're going through those tough times, it's preparing you for something far, far better. And if something goes away from you, if you like, your job is not working out for you, just move on. You
Right.
don't need to. Your happiness somewhere is the biggest thing which you owe to yourself. So if you're not happy, and I've been in very, very bad jobs, I would say. I've kind of kept them going, thinking that, oh, let me try to work harder and make it work. But, it's like if it doesn't serve its purpose, just move on. There is something
Hmm.
better, and it is a part of the larger
Hmm. So that's great advice, right? And now I like in terms of this being patient, learning to be patient and letting things fall in place. What about if I want to know how to make things fall in place, right? What in this particular job, what would you recommend as a me, someone who's in high school and about to go to college? What major or sort of what I should do my graduate or bachelor's degree
plan. Okay, so you need to have a degree in marketing.
in? Hmm.
Okay, so because eventually you are talking to brands and consumers. Having said that, some kind of a, uh, degree in maybe stats or mathematics. I mean, you need to have uh, some love for numbers. Let me put it that way. So there is a lot of things you learn on the job as well, but these two are the kind of majors, or maybe a major and a minor which we do. But of course a degree in marketing is one of the main things which you need to do. Having
Hmm.
said that, there are people who have gotten very who've done very well in this field, have started without a degree in marketing as
Right,
well. But then again, it's like a sample size of one or two, and you need to
right.
at least get your basics right, because the principles don't change. Beyond that, you go into offline media, online media. End of the day, it's reaching your consumer at the
Hmm.
right time with the right message at the right price. I mean, that's really the crux of what I do. So
Right.
you kind of just need to make sure that you've got all of these things in place. A bit of, if you have something on consumer behavior or understanding human psyche, those kind of papers. Now there are a lot of different subjects which you guys
Yeah.
have in your courses, so those will also help, because you would be able to understand reasons of why people behave in a certain manner, how do they interact with various media, various brands, so those kind of things.
Awesome, awesome. So just to summarize a bit here, you'd say that working with numbers or doing something with numbers, whether that be marketing, whether that be, data analysis, whether that be physics in your case, that would be one of the major things.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. But it
Hmm.
also depends on your aptitude. There are people who've done English literature and come now.
Right,
So
right.
it's
So
like, yeah,
of course,
it's like
you have
across.
outliers and stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. Now, what I want to kind of do is I want to go more into you and your story, right? As you are now a VP, and that's a really nice and steep climb in terms of you've grown tremendously and stuff, right? So, aside from your job, what kind of mindset did you start off with, and has that changed in any way? And the reason being is that if this were an easy job, you'd see everyone as vice president, right? You were able to get to your position for a reason, with your own ups and downs. So how did you push through?
Uh, okay. So I think what helped me very early on in my life was to actually give in a lot to my job. So I used to be working late hours and on weekends and stuff like that. Not to say that you should be doing it, but that's something which I started doing. But so and initially, like first 9 years of my life, I actually changed 5 jobs.
Wow.
Okay, so it was. I mean, now I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? And but somewhere, my first job, I was in handling automobiles and consumer durables, and I decided that I needed to have an FMCG experience. So I moved to an agency where I could get an FMCG experience because they were handling one of the larger FMCG brands in Delhi. Then moved on to another job because I didn't like it. So I kept on like moving initially, but then uh, one fine day I had this call from a consulting company saying Accenture saying that they are wanting to launch a media audit division in the country and would I want to come and do it. Now at that time when I was at the peak of my career in terms of advertising there, where my phone didn't stop ringing because
Wow.
in in that time, I remember I was handling two largest brands in the country, which is Samsung and
Wow.
Hyundai, and we had a very small team, a very small agency set up, but we were spending a lot of money at that time. So again, you were like literally the blue-eyed girl of the industry, and I just
Wow.
decided I want to not stay with that and move into a role which was completely setting up something new. So in fact, when I was quitting, my boss in the previous organization offered me double the raise, and he said we'll give you a company car and stuff, and it was very very exciting because I was joining at much lesser. But then somewhere I realized that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something new. And this was something which was a part of my domain, but at the same time, it was handling it from a different perspective. And what Accenture brought to me, and I'm grateful for that, is that it gave me a perspective across the globe. So I know now how media in US works versus how is it bought in UK versus Spain, Portugal, Australia. So again, my worldview changed, and that was because I decided to take that leap out into the unknown. And then 3 years later, GSK approached, and I moved to the client side, and now kind of been there
Wow.
for like now it's been more than 10 years in this part of the
Wow.
industry. But yeah, I guess it's risk taking. It is sometimes knowing that if something is not serving your purpose, you kind of move ahead with it. And as we discussed, media has been evolving so dynamically that there was no right and wrong answer. And again, also if I was to look at really back in time, if I decided not to continue in media when I did my internship and would have gotten into a regular marketing job. So you can be a generalist where your chances of
Mhm.
growing are far higher, but
Mhm.
if you choose to be a specialist, then you have a very different growth trajectory. So I know that I may not be a CEO in a company, but I
Mhm.
know that I will be recognized for what I'm doing because there
Right.
are very few
Right.
people who are doing the same thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, and so going off of that, right? Because there's so few people doing this thing, and you've been working in the beginning at least, for so long, right? As you said, in the weekends, and the nights and all that. How did you sort of deal with the health aspect as being a VP, and especially being a VP for media and digital is quite a challenging task, right? And the reason being is that again, you must deal with a tremendous amount of stress, right? So if people in the future were to achieve, this position, how would be a good way to sort of decompress?
So that's a very interesting thing which happened in my life. And about 2.5 years ago, I actually did a teacher training course in yoga.
Wow.
So I'm a certified yoga instructor as well. And so it's like so I had been dabbling off and on in yoga for like years, but somewhere in fact that's a very interesting story also how it happened. I was evaluating a role in UK, and then I
Hmm.
said no to it because of certain reasons, and this yoga teacher training course was just happening very close to where I stay. I said why not, like let me just do something else.
Uh-huh.
And And Maulik, believe you me, that's like one of the most beautiful things I've done in my life. Sorry to sound cliched,
Oh, no
but
problem.
yeah, but so it got my practice in place. So I've now, especially during the lockdown, I have
Hmm.
practiced mostly like at least once, if not twice a day. And what it taught me also was to be more grounded. See, in our industry, especially as I told you, that there are very few people. So you get a lot of spotlight at times, okay, but
Hmm.
somewhere you realize that the spotlight is this for this position and not for me as a person, right?
Right.
So this is for VP Media and Digital for the RPSG Group. This is for the head of media at GSK or Reckitt. This is not for Bhavana Mittal, right?
Hmm.
So that kind of a thing, that grounding, and then I've been taking classes regularly now. So when you teach and a student comes and says thank you, is far more gratifying than a lot of things which are happening in your daily job, because they don't see you as this person who's the VP of this person. They just see you as a teacher,
Hmm.
and a good class for them is something which kind of completely humbles you and makes you much more uh, happier. And I think the other thing which happened with the whole my yoga journey was that that's what I was telling you about, that just needed to be happy, just the need to be just letting things flow, because
Hmm.
everything will happen around. I think that's something which my training taught me. So even during the lockdown, I mean, there are people who are panicking and all, but you know that if it has to happen, it will. So just make sure you keep your precautions, you do things well, and then whatever happen will happen for a reason. There's no way you can really control it.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's my thing.
That's great to hear. It's amazing that you're being able to commit to something like this. Being able to teach students, even though you have such a difficult job and all that. So that's great work and all that. That's great to hear that even though you're doing all of this, which is really hard work, you're taking time to spend, not only make your body better, but making the people around you, their body better as well. So that's great to hear. And
In
finally,
fact, sorry, yeah, I'll
oh, no
just
problem,
add
no
there.
problem.
It's not a yeah, it's not only body, but it's also mind,
That's
because
true.
yoga
That's
kind
true.
of centers you, and this is my way of giving back to the community. So again, as you grow older, you want to give back to the society as well and do
Hmm.
things. So one is of course donating to various charities and all, but how can you also volunteer your time?
Hmm.
So again, as you guys are stepping into your journeys, just see how can you give back, because the sense of gratitude is something which is missing in our lives. And just
Right.
just being grateful for what we have today, every day when we get up, is an important thing.
That's true. That's true. That's
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
great to hear. No problem. That is true. That is true for sure. And I'd just like to end off with two final questions. Um,
Okay.
the first one being, will you be changing something post COVID-19? And the reason being is that many people throughout COVID-19, they were able to reflect on so many things that were previously left buried, right? Whether that be for work, whether that be for personal life. So if there is one thing, um, what will you be changing?
So something which is kind of already gotten into the whole during COVID days as well. I think we need to be very sure of living for the day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you don't know what is going to happen. So choose to be happy now. Choose to do your best today. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your families. Connect with people, because you just don't know what tomorrow will bring for us. So that's one very big thing which I think I am trying to do. The other is
Mm-hmm.
helping out people as much as you can, because a lot of people have lost their jobs. These are people, these are people like within friends, within your professional network. So what can you do to help them? Or there are people like in India, we have a lot of these house helps and all. So people are going back to their villages, they don't have money with them. So how can you actually give them money to just make sure that somewhere they are able to, lead a better
Right.
life? uh, there are people who are organizing meals for people. So again, do your bit, because I think money is something which is transient. You need some bit of it and maybe a little more, but how can you actually give your time, your resources to the general society? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you hear of 30-year-olds, 32-year-olds just succumbing to the disease and to this virus, and you're like, I mean, I'm sure they've had plans and you don't know if you could be next. So do whatever you can right now. And I think the other bit would be keep yourself at the forefront. Try to think of yourself, your own health, uh, your own family's health. Eat clean, eat better. Not to enjoy your drink. I mean, not to say that you don't enjoy your drink at times, but have at least that kind of a thing, that somewhere you need to look at. Keeping your body and mind both prepared, having a positive outlook.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you cannot control things. It will happen. Do your best. You don't know where you'll get it from. So
Right.
just be prepared, but don't panic. Don't kill yourself for it. Just be happy and do whatever you're supposed to do in that particular day.
Awesome, awesome. So, just to summarize this interview a bit, Ms. Mittal has worked in various different, you know, um, great and huge companies representing amazing brands such as Hyundai, such as Dettol, and many others, right? And one of the main things that she says that would be a big part would be to, one, be passionate about what you do and to work hard towards that and be a critical thinker and a leader. And apart from that, to give back to your community once you have made yourself a person. And finally, to enjoy yourself as a person, no matter where you are, who you are, or who that, whatever you are. And finally, just like to end off with one, fun type of question that, again, I am a high schooler. So, you know, do VPs have fun? Just, is it a fun job and all that?
It's how much fun you want to have, right? Because you can decide to be stressed about it, but then as I said, you need to be curious. You need to think of every day as a new challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and you do end up having fun. So the high of a brand doing well is a different sort of a fun itself. So we'll not be like in agencies, you might be playing football in the office. We'll not be doing that, but yeah, you kind of enjoy while you are here, and then you move outside of office. Try to leave office behind when you're leaving it, and
Mm-hmm.
have fun with your friends and family.
Awesome, awesome. So that's great to hear, and again, thank you so much for being here. This has been a great insight, not only for myself, but I'm sure for many other teams around the world. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, the viewers, for watching.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Maulik.